having a look at these top fours, the first one we're going to be bringing you is that bottom one, Tim Edwards versus Alex Gómez. Now, Alex Gómez, the reigning NAIC champion, he's been runner-up at EUIC previously in 2018, so he knows what it takes to be able to get to that grand final, to Championship Sunday, but is he going to be able to go one step better than that previous EUIC record?
Well, he definitely has shown he can stand up to the pressure, whereas opponent on the opposing end, Tim Edwards, this is totally uncharted territory. Top 32 at Toronto Regional is, like, it's not nearly the same experience as sitting here on the stage, playing in top 4 against an international champion. Making it this far is such an impressive feat, but honestly, this is a chance to take it one step further.
This is his first full competitive season, and he's doing it with one of his favorite Pokemon, Fluttermane, by his side. Having come off a top 32 finish at a regional this season, already, you know, kind of starting to get those accolades in his championship roster, but now being able to say, at the very least, top 4 on the international stage really does show that he is a name to watch, not only in this tournament, but for the future.
Sometimes it's your tournament, sometimes it's your day, and everybody has to have that breakout performance at some point before they can start being one of these players that we talk about. So being able to follow Tim Edwards' journey so far has been really, really exciting, though it definitely hasn't been easy, and it won't proceed to be easy. And taking a look at the teams here, another reason this won't be easy. These are some common teams that we've seen because these are the strongest Pokemon that we have.
And we have had the privilege of being able to watch both Tim and Alex through various matches this weekend. And Tim earlier gave us that absolute showdown against the cornerstone Ogerpon, showing that the consistency of these 6 Pokemon that we've seen everywhere in the meta really are tried and tested to withstand even the wildest surprise from an Ivy Cudgeling cornerstone.
And even from both trainers here, we get to see some repeat Pokemon, but I'm specifically looking at the Raging Bolt here in the matchup.
Yeah.
Because this is something that there is a couple of different ways it can be built out, and we do see that these Raging Bolts, although quite similar, do have fundamental differences that, hey, it could be paying off huge in this match. That could be the key difference right there.
The momentum that Raging Bolt can get up to, particularly if it goes for those Calm Minds, can be staggering. And if we dive a little bit deeper as well, another Pokemon of interest is the Urshifu Rapid Strike. We've seen a lot of them rocking that Choice Scarf, but Tim has opted for the Focus Sash to give it a little bit more longevity on the field, particularly as the fact that you can protect, can maybe try and position the board to provide a little bit of support with something like an Incineroar or a Rillaboom providing that Fake Out to allow Urshifu a safer way to go for those Surging Strikes.
And being able to have an Urshifu that can protect itself, have this Focus Sash so you can survive one hit, especially when there is things like Rillaboom and Raging Bolt that can threaten you so much, really makes things difficult. Because now this is committed to a double hit coming out from Alex. If you want to take care of this Urshifu here, and hey, if you're double targeting into a Pokemon and it protects, it could throw you so far behind. Hearthflame Ogerpon is another one I want to talk about. Sometimes we get to see that we do have a Follow Me, some redirection coming out. Instead, we actually have a little bit of coverage here, being able to have not only the Ivy Cudgel and Wood Hammer, but the Stomping Tantrum.
That was something that caught me by surprise earlier, and nice to see this all-out offensive Ogerpon. The Fluttermane is also a really interesting choice. The fact that it's running this more supportive set with the Icy Wind and the Taunt could be really prevalent in this match. Icy Wind obviously gaining a little bit of speed momentum, but critically the Taunt to shut down the opposing Raging Bolt going for those Calm Minds.
Love to see the attacking Pokemons with the supportive moves, even like the Incineroar, but now diving a little bit more into Alex's team. Get to see a lot of the same key pieces here, but a little bit of changes. But instead of the Fluttermane, it's going to be the Chien Pao. So attacks coming out from something like this Rillaboom and the Urshifu Rapid Strike will be doing more because of the Sword of Ruin, lowering the defense on the opposing end. Raging Bolt as well, instead of that leftovers to try and be gaining that health turn and turn again, is instead going to be the booster energy. Could either be the speed or that special attack here at this point. Incineroar as well. Sure, there is the coverage over on the opposing end to hit into a ground move, but it has the Shuka Berry to make sure it can get through that hit.
I think the way Will-O-Wisp on the Incineroars are going to be critical as well. If you look at Alex's one here, there's a lot of targets on Tim's side that you can go for, Pokemon like the Rillaboom, Pokemon like the Urshifu. However, you also have physical attackers, Ogerpon and Incineroar, with those fire types, will not be affected by that. So in contrast, the way Tim has the Will-O-Wisp on his Incineroar, there's a lot more that can be hit on Alex's side.
And I said, hey, instead of Fluttermane, we have Chien Pao. What I really should be talking about is that opposing Ghost type here in the Golden Go here. This one will be the leftover setup with the Nasty Plot, trying to get those special attack boosts so you can take big advantage of the Make It Rain Shadow Balls and hit very, very powerful attacks into the other end. I do think it'd be hard pressed in this matchup, but I think it is a key difference to call out that, hey, this is the Pokemon, since it is something we've seen throughout the tournament.
We've seen it run away with matches. If you get that nasty plot set up, and who knows, even if you get 2, then it really can steamroll through opponents. And Tim needs to make sure that he doesn't allow Alex to gain that momentum. It's not like you can even taunt away those nasty plots. Good as Gold ability stops those status moves from coming into effect, but you do have a lot of offensive pressure with your Fire-type Pokemon, the Ogerpon, the Incineroar, and even, you know, that cheeky Stomping Tantrum can come through. The issue is if it does go for that Terra Fairy type.
One thing is, though, is if you are expecting those Pokemon over on Tim's end, that means he is going to be dropping something else. And we do like to see the Rillaboom Incineroar comboed a lot of the time, but it's time to get into our first top 4 match here at EUIC. Raging Bolt, mirrored, all around, one for everybody, but Rillaboom for Alex is going to be going up against the Incineroar on Tim's end.
Give it up for our Masters top 4 matches, and no surprises here. There is a fake out apiece with Incineroar and Rillaboom paired up with those Raging Bolts. Raging Bolt now in prime position to try and go for something like the Calm Minds.
And this Raging Bolt over on Alex's end, it is going to be the special attack. So it does have a way to be dealing a little bit more damage off the get-go. So you can be going for the setup and get the Calm Mind so you can have that special defense boost, but you're not hard-pressed to, okay, well, if I need to have that attack right now, that you have to go for it. And that's going to be one of the differences to look out here for the Raging Bolt. Fake outs over on each end as well. Alex does have the upper hand in the fact that Rillaboom's fake out will be faster than the Incineroar.
That does give Alex a lot of momentum, like you said, has the respite, doesn't have to worry about necessarily going for the Calm Mind, but we're going to see some Sparkling Terrestrialization fresh out of the blocks here in top 4. It is going to be that Raging Bolt dropping its Dragon and Electric typing in favor of that Fairy typing.
Don't want to be on the wrong side of a Dragon Pulse coming out from the opposing Raging Bolt, and Fake Out means no setup for Tim's Raging Bolt, but it's just going to be the Fake Outs traded onto the Raging Bolt. So you get the Terrestrialization out, and that's going to be the one thing. I think you would have terrestrialized that off the bat, like down the line anyways, but now Alex has that confirmation.
Yes, and you're locked into it. It's not like you can undo this particular move. A little bit of recovery for the fake out, so it's almost like we're kind of resetting turn 0, but now there's no fake out potential on the field. Incineroar and Rillaboom in a position where they can maybe try and utilize this to start pivoting out, being able to bring that fake out for a little bit later. Wouldn't be surprised to see something like the Parting Shot come out from the Incineroar to negate the photosynthesis boost that the opposing Raging Bolt got.
It's turn 2, and my oh my, what a surprise. Fairy-type Terrestrialization coming out for the Raging Bolt on Alex's end as well. This is so safe because you know that each one of them has the Dragon coverage move, and if you're going for something like a Calm Mind, it can't be Thunderclap. You turn into the Incineroar, critical hit, doesn't necessarily feel like it. We'll see if that damage matters down the line, but a chance now for Alex to pivot.
Yes, the faster Pokemon in the form of Rillaboom leaving the field first, and Alex now able to bring in a Pokemon from the back to apply a little bit more pressure to this opposing Raging Bolt. It is going to be the Incineroar, so throwing the Intimidate down, but critically, Fake Out back on the field to stop it for going for these Calm Minds, or even if it utilizes one this turn, it then can't use that extra boost for damage.
And that could be where you can find yourself a step ahead. On this turn, it will be Calm Mind coming out from Alex Gómez to get another special attack boost and a special attack and a special defense boost over on his Pokemon, matched by the one on Tim's end. Notably as well, to start things off, it was Alex's that did move first, but it will be a pivot from Tim as well. Parting Shot will bring that now to just that +1.
Exactly, really trying to negate some of the pressure that the opposing Raging Bolt is having, as well as pivoting these Pokemon in and off the field. The thing is, however, if you are dropping down those special attacks, there's not a lot you can do to the special defense, which I think is wise, considering the fact that Tim has a lot of physical attackers. He's not going to worry about that too much.
And now with the Rillaboom coming back in, it is yet again a tale of the fake outs, but now the faster one over on Tim's end of the board. And you can see here that there's 2 different paths. You might want to stop the Incineroar so that your Raging Bolt can be setting up and you don't have to worry about the fake out. But if you do, well, then Alex can just go for the Calm Mind over on his own. And it's going to be a really dangerous game if you can let one Raging Bolt set up more than the other, because that is what's going to cost you in the end.
Ultimately, that photosynthesis boost could be what gives Alec this advantage, because we see with these balance teams time and time again this very slow and steady consistency, almost where the trainers are hesitant to be the first one to break and deal that damage. Fake Out, yes, it causes flinching, but it's not going to be able to get a lot of damage on the ball, particularly with that grassy terrain. The Raging Bolt on Tim's side, though, is being allowed to go for another Calm Mind here.
Second one stacked up for Tim. No fake out on the opposing end. Could be a Parting Shot instead to start dealing it down, so negate it. All right, your special defense, you will get that raise there, but you're brought back down to just +1 special attack. If you do not like those long haul, pivoty setup sort of games, I got bad news for you, because we're going to be in for a long one.
Yeah, strap in Pokemon trainers. It's going to be a while, but this really does show the calculated, methodical plays of our trainer. It's all moves and counter moves. They don't want to be the first one to drop and then leave themselves vulnerable.
The thing with the parting shot as well, as opposed to trying to match a fake out that you could have been outspeed over is Alex, is now you have the fake out pressure again on this turn, on a turn that Tim can't necessarily be matching that. So you can just fake out into the Raging Bolt and a turn for yours to try and get, you know, one step ahead. You were set one turn behind them last, but you still are at a +1 special attack over Tim's Raging Bolt because of that photosynthesis booster energy to be kicking things off. But you have to be so careful with the pivots and fake out onto the Rillaboom to make sure no U-turn out and no manual swap either.
Yes, we're going to see, once again, surprise, surprise, another Calm Mind coming through on Alex's side. And the thing is, if I'm either of these trainers, I'm going to have to start thinking about how I'm going to take down the opposing Raging Bolt, because it's not like your own Raging Bolt can attack it. It's got Dragon Pulse, that's not going to be affected by the Fairy types, and unless you're going to see lots of Thunderclaps going around, then there really isn't a way to deal damage to it. So you're always going to be relying on that partner Pokemon. At the same time, the opposing Raging Bolt really threatens that for the same reason. It's almost forced to attack that partner slot.
Thank you, Tim, so much for opening up and looking at the menu so you're keeping track of where we are about with the Calm Mind. Fake out from Alex into the Rillaboom instead. While you're also trying to set up your Raging Bolt, you do need to make sure that you're not necessarily taking too much damage. And since we did drop that Dragon type, the Wood Hammers from the opposing end would be hitting just for a neutral point at that. So now we got a Calm Mind for Tim's Raging Bolt and being able to start stacking up. I wonder, are we just going all the way? Are we not breaking until we get to that +6/+6?
I think it's really going to come down to this face-off of who's going to be able to bring out the Incineroar and get that fake out down again. Both trainers really thinking through these turns. Rillaboom on Tim's side is able to go for that U-turn, does do a significant chunk of damage. I think it's the most momentum that we've seen so far in this turn, and this could be where things start to get a little bit dicey. The Ogerpon's also in the back, but Tim still hesitant to bring it in, doesn't want to reveal that information, and is quite complacent here, bringing in the Incineroar, knowing the Intimidate's help out against the Rillaboom, and at the same time keeping that fake out pressure on the field.
I'm not going to get too excited about the damage until we all of a sudden get rid of the Grassy Train and get rid of ways to be setting it up. Maybe once we break, that could be the difference maker there, but U-turn, the Rillaboom's not going to be falling next turn, and instead pivoting out to, who would have guessed it? It's going to be Incineroar again.
All these little bits of damage will eventually add up, though. And, you know, even at the end of the day, if we don't, there is a timer on the board, and we might see that come into effect for this particular match. Incineroar goes down, however. Wake up, world. We've got a KO on the board. The Dragon Pulse able to connect as the Raging Bolt does the same on Tim's side. Goes into the opposing Incineroar, but this time not enough to get the KO. You needed that extra damage previously to guarantee the knockout.
Alex was the first one to be breaking the stalemate in this position, and he's going to be the one coming out ahead as he will be able to deal with the Incineroar, and Tim, unfortunately, unable to be matching it. That is a lot of damage dealt down, but it was a KO that you need to be looking for. You can bring out the Rillaboom now. You do have to fake out once again, but that is definitely a blow, considering that Alex can just go back to the pivoting game, and you all of a sudden lost a big piece to that.
Exactly, your flexibility on how you pivot your Pokemon in and out is now dwindled down. Rillaboom has this utility to go for another fake out, maybe try and go down into that Raging Bolt so it cannot attack it with another one of those Dragon Pulses, but at the same time, if you don't go for fake out into the opposing Incineroar, you're enabling it to be able to go for a parting shot and switch out and just keep this steamrolling, revolving door of Pokemon on Alex's side.
When you're looking at Tim, though, that is something that you can try and make those reads for. So you want to make sure that, hey, if I'm predicting we'll see the Rillaboom come back in, can target into the slot. And if you feel that you have enough special attack on your side, then you can also try and target in. If the Incineroar will be swapping out, we see that it was a fake out targeted into the Raging Bolt, and it will be a Shifu instead that'll be coming in over on Alex's end.
Rillaboom targets down into that opposing Raging Bolt, not wanting it to go for any of those Dragon Pulses. Even though it has the Assault Vest, it has a little bit of respite. But the Raging Bolt on Tim's side on the full-out offensive, that's a one-hit KO into the opposing Urshifu.
All right, Tim, it might have been a turn late, but being able to deal a little bit of revenge onto Alex, and Raging Bolt will settle the score even if just a little bit. And now you still have your pivoting pieces for Alex, and Incineroar, you can bring it back in, get Intimidate onto the Rillaboom, and have your own fake out. It could have been just something you wanted to attack at this point, but still, you have to be so careful going on forward, because these pieces, like the chess pieces right now, you cannot give them up if you're not getting a great advantage.
Tim's Rillaboom is very exposed now as well. Incineroar's just joined the field. It can go for a fake out. Rillaboom cannot protect, and it leaves it in prime target for a Dragon Pulse coming through from the opposing Raging Bolt. At the same time, if Tim wants to swap, his Pokemon in the back is that Ogerpon Half Flame, and that's something that he needs as a critical piece to get the damage down on the board. So he doesn't want it to take any unnecessary damage. I think at this point, your Rillaboom is in a difficult spot. It's going to have to take this damage. It has the Assault Vest, so it might be able to have some flexibility around it. That said, if Alex wants to maybe go full on the offensive, maybe try and double up into it, it could be a way to get the knockout.
And at this point, fake out into the Raging Bolt. Understandable. Fair. U-turn into the Incineroar. That will be a pivot out now from Tim. And this will force the final Pokemon in over on his end. We know what it is. It's a Hearth Flame Ogerpon, but first chance for Alex to adjust.
And this is good information for him as well. Being able to force Tim's hand to expose what those cards are in his back pocket shows that he is in control of this match. The Ogerpon is down and out as well. This Raging Bolt is on a rampage.
All right, you don't have to react. You can just go on and attack. One hit KO, and it is down. And with that, Tim Edwards down to his final 2 Pokemon. Raging Bolt almost back up to full, will be back up to full after the grassy terrain and the leftovers recovery, but pieces surrounding getting slowly but surely whittled around.
The thing with the Raging Bolt, however, is if we do get down into this kind of awkward stalemate between the 2 Pokemon, as I said earlier, they don't really have a way to hit each other except for the Thunderclaps, that priority move, and that can lead to a very interesting endgame where the trainers are just trying to play these mind games and try and get this longevity on the field. Rillaboom has the chance to now go for one final fake out on Tim's side in this game 1. Very likely going to go down into this opposing Raging Bolt just to stop it from being able to get damage on the board, and then enabling the Raging Bolt on Tim's side to go for the Dragon Pulse into that Incineroar, get the KO. And even if you want to switch something in like the Rillaboom, that's still going to have to take that damage.
Especially since the Rillaboom did take a significant chunk. Since it does have the Assault Vest, you'd have to see exactly how much it would be dealt in on the switch in, but at the same time, then it would also bring Alex down to 2 pieces. You would have a fake out on the next time around, but that is still tough. And when your Incineroar is also really low, I don't know if you can risk it. Fake out, critical hit, little bit more damage into that Raging Bolt, and the flinch on this turn is Dragon Pulse into the Incineroar, already low, will now settle the score 2 apiece.
Very easy knockout there, and once again, these trainers bringing the Raging Bolt and now the Rillabooms onto the field to close out this endgame. Rillaboom just gaining a little bit more recovery from that grassy terrain, as is the Raging Bolt, and depending on how many more turns of this grassy terrain is in play, it's not going to be around for long. Both Rillabooms on the field, they have no utility to come back in and reset that, so eventually the damage is going to start stacking up.
And the thing too, once that grassy terrain is gone, it will only be the Raging Bolt over on Tim's end that will get that consistent recovery, since it is the booster energy over on Alex's end. And now you do have a little bit more of a health advantage on Tim's end, since both your Pokemon are full at this moment. And if we are looking at those micro little differences that you're going to be chipping away, every part of that matters. If you are worried though, I mean, Alex did have that little bit of advantage with the fact you did get that extra special attack boost because of the booster energy, and that damage will matter as well. Fake out first will be the first move into the Raging Bolt.
Rillaboom moving first here though, able to go for that Wood Hammer. That's big damage onto the opposing Raging Bolt. Is going to have to take a little bit of recoil though, and that could be detrimental as the Dragon Pulse connects down. Not enough to get the knockout though.
The Assault Vest, so critical in this moment, not being able to bring Tim down to just his final Pokemon, and a lot of damage dealt into that Raging Bolt. A round of recovery for the house here, a second one for the Raging Bolt over on Tim's end, but surely that damage is going to be crucial. Alex does have an opportunity to try and match that though.
Alex also can now go for something like the Thunderclap into that opposing Rillaboom, try and get the knockout before Rillaboom's able to go for that priority, but the grassy terrain is still in effect.
Yes, and that's where we can see something like the Grassy Glide be coming out, since if you try and Thunderclap into something that already has that priority move, that could be difficult. You did bring the Raging Bolt down low. You do deal a little bit of extra damage with the help of that Grassy Terrain boosting that Grass-type move, and you're scared for the Thunderclap, well, then you just got to go for that one either way.
Yeah, you don't really have a choice at this point. Rillaboom going in for that Grassy Glide, not enough to be able to get the knockout, as the Thunderclap does come through from one Raging Bolt into the other. They're really starting to line up their sights against each other as the Wood Hammer follows up, but again, not enough to KO.
Really hoping with that double up with the Thunderclap into the Raging Bolt first that it was going to be doing the damage that you can just 2-hit KO, get rid of it right on the spot. But Dragon Pulse, after that survival, will take down the Rillaboom on Alex's end of the field, leaving just his lone Raging Bolt with just a sliver of health against the world.
And the grassy terrain still in effect here for the moment, making it very easy for this Rillaboom to be able to go through and connect. This makes things very, very dicey for the... Oh, it doesn't. It's gone. It's gone. That gives things a little bit more difficulty here for Tim.
Looking at this though, Alex, it is a 2v1 and we have still the priority on the Raging Bolt. Yes, we do have multiple special defense boosts, but if Alex tries to target into the Raging Bolt, the Rillaboom to take care of it and vice versa. You're kind of checkmate in this situation. These Pokemon won't be taking care of themselves, so it's a tough one. Even if you do just try to play that Thunderclap mind game, I mean, the Wood Hammer in the end, you've already just taken so much damage, and the fact that you weren't being able to heal it up like Tim was able to on his end, it's a tough one. Really, really well played by both of these trainers, though. And the fact that we got to see so much setup, so much deliberation going on forward in this, I mean, like I said, we're in for the long haul.
I think the 2v1 situation, though, does give Tim a lot of momentum here. You see the Protect come through on Alex's Raging Bolt. That Raging Bolt is, you know, just trying to maybe see a little bit what Tim is doing, maybe try and scout out what exactly Rillaboom wants to do, as well as burning through one of those Thunderclap moves on the opposing side. I mean, Alex also has to start thinking towards the rest of the set. The issue here is you're enabling the Raging Bolt on Tim's side to get a little bit more recovery as well, making it even harder for a Thunderclap on the opposing Raging Bolt from Alex to get that knockout.
I think it's more so thinking about how you're going to be dealing with this in the game, too. Yeah. I don't see an out here at this moment, especially with the health regeneration. It could be cute to scout out, but regardless, unless there is something crazy going on from Tim, it is just a safe double up into this going on, since you do not have that leftovers recovery over on Alex's end here. And when you're looking at what can be done in this game 2 situation, it is difficult because it was both trainers breaking first, and it was Alex to get the upper hand with the KO. But that damage that Tim was able to do earlier on into things like the Rillaboom really just kind of paved that way down the line.
Both these trainers were kind of evenly matched at the beginning of this set, really kind of looking to their Raging Bolts to get those Calm Minds set up, and both being so methodical and calculated with the way that they were switching in their Incineroar and their Rillabooms. You can see Alex trying to go for the double protect here, but to no avail. The one thing it does stop is that Thunderclap, but there's no stopping the Rillaboom in its tracks. It's able to go for this Wood Hammer and get the knockout, forcing the Game 2 situation here. So congratulations to Tim winning Game 1, and it really did come down to the fact that Tim went on that offensive very, very quickly.
Both did, but a difference in the Pokemon that were being brought out and how they were pivoting. And it's so difficult to look back and be like, oh, okay, well, this turn, because I think that there was a lot of different factors that went into it. Again, I think one of the biggest one is just the amount of damage that Tim was able to output, whereas Alex wasn't able to have that full recovery going on, and Alex has to be looking to that. There was a lot of recovery into the Raging Bolt, but it wasn't quite matched, and when it is just those micro differences going on forward and more into this match, it's those ones you have to be looking at into.
I want to just slow this down a little bit more because the beginning of the match was very slow, then it got very, very quick, and it kind of was hard to keep track of a few different things. But I think the one thing that really stood out to me, as you mentioned, was the last Pokemon that was there. The Urshifu on Alex's side was so underwhelming. I think it really missed having a Focus Sash to be able to take that Dragon Pulse there. And I think going into this next game, Alex needs to either find a way to bring it in a little bit safer so that it's able to actually get some damage on the board, maybe apply some physical threat to the opposing Raging Bolt, or has to change up that slot because it really did kind of almost put him in a situation where he ended up only bringing 3 Pokemon.
I can't imagine, though, with the swap into the Urshifu that Alex ever thought it was a safe swap. I feel at that point it's preserving different key pieces that you have in the Incineroar and that Rillaboom to still be able to have that pivot and the fake-out potential, because that fake-out is what was keeping the Raging Bolt in check over in the opposing end. And the same when you're looking at Tim, because Tim also had that swap into the Heartflame Ogre Pawn that just, well, it just got cleanly cleared off of the board there. But it was then a pivot that allowed something else to be coming in safer. It does feel bad when that's how the Pokemon falls in this battle. So if you can find any other utility from it, it would definitely feel really, really nice. But I do think that the Rillaboom, Incineroar, Raging Bolt is that 3 that need to be showing up.
Yeah, my eyes are kind of looking at the Golden Go here, wondering if there is any utility to bring it in, try and go for those nasty plots, gain some momentum, and set up with that Pokemon as opposed to the Raging Bolt. You can then apply pressure with the Make It Rain if the opposing Raging Bolt does want to go for that Terra Fairy. The issue is those Calm Minds boosting up the special defense as well, and you can go for parting shots all you like. That special defense is still going to be in play and detrimental to the pressure that Golden Go wants to inflict.
Golden Go would definitely be pressured in the matchup, but it would pressure the Raging Bolt in return, since you do have access to something that, hey, if it all of a sudden goes into that Terra Fairy, you have these powerful Make It Rains. If it doesn't, well, then the Raging Bolts on Alex's side is just going to go absolutely nuts with those Dragon Pulses. So it definitely is a risky adjustment going on forward, but it is definitely a possible one. It's whether you want to be taking that risk here in top 4, game 2, when you're one match away from potentially ending the run. It's going to be Rillaboom, Raging Bolt yet again, Raging Bolts, and Incineroar for Tim.
I've seen these leads before, Sierra, bringing in the consistency from these trainers, knowing that their leads in the first game were strong. They give that amazing supportive options to the Raging Bolt, and then do allow it to try and get those Calm Minds set up once the fake outs have, of course, been burnt.
Of course, yet again, booster energy reminder, special attack boost for Alex. So when you're looking at the damage trading down the line, a little bit of an advantage over on his end. And this is how we saw turn 1 of game 1 turn out, with double fake out on each side, a way to be stopping the Raging Bolt on the opposing.
I really wouldn't be surprised to see the same slow and steady approach from these trainers, just trying to wait for the other to make a mistake and capitalize on it. It could be that one turn where they maybe don't go for the fake out, call the ultimate bluff, and then go for some big damage just to get it in early doors. But I think critically, the setup of these Raging Bolts is so crucial to being able to have more longevity on the field and to be able to have the end game closers.
If you can get a heads-up move on this pivoting and make a big call, that could be paying off in spades. But it's also what could be putting you that one turn behind and really easily then lose out in this Raging Bolt mirror, because you cannot disrespect it. So not surprised. Again, we're going to see the beloved, the cherished, little heart on top Raging Bolt coming out.
You've got to, right? When you're facing down against a potential Dragon Pulse, it just makes so much utility. But there is no Terrestrialization on Tim's side. Doesn't have to worry about it, though. You're not going for the Terrestrialization so you're on your side, and you're going for the fake out into the other one, so you don't have to worry about the Dragon Pulse. A very, very neutral turn. But critically, very similar to how it was in game 1, Alex is now kind of already committed to the Terra, whereas Tim does still have options.
It was funny, in game 1, it was actually swapped order around, but now Alex went ahead and committing that on the first turn. We're going to see the second turn submit because...
Why not, right?
Well, you can't not. You will lose if you're not terrestrializing this Raging Bolt and allowing it to potentially be taken down by the opposing end.
Yeah, we're not breaking tradition here or trying to shake up the meta too much. Let's just go for the Terra Fairy on this adorable Raging Bolt. That said, once it starts getting those Calm Minds up, it's going to be a little less cute to face down on the battlefield. I think one key thing for these trainers is to just stay calm and composed. Go for those parting shots, go for those U-turns, and just keep trying to get your Pokemon in a position where they can start to go for those Dragon Pulses. You need to make sure that at a point, though, where it's going to be doing enough damage. The Assault Vest on these Ridobooms are very real, and they can stop you from getting the knockouts.
I'm curious if we're going to see as much setup from these two trainers as we ought to see in that game 1, or if someone's going to break a little sooner and trying to do the damage they need. Rillaboom already going for that damage into the Raging Bolt. It'll be bringing it to about half, but that'll be damage that stacks up. First Calm Mind coming out, Alex's end of the board, +1 to the special attack and the special defense, but it will be matched in tune from the one over on Tim's end. We very consistently at this point, I believe, seen Alex's always move first. So even though it is this booster's special attack and not speed, I do think this one might be trained to be just a little bit faster in this. Parting shot, it will bring down to just that +1 special attack now at this point.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's kind of got the best of both worlds. The booster energy giving it that special attack, but it's naturally speedy anyway, so it doesn't have to have that investment in this particular matchup. Very useful coming into this top 4 game. Tim now has the position, though, to bring in a Pokemon from the back, and you can see he's brought the exact same 4 Pokemon as he did to game 1. It was the victorious set for him, but also it does enable him to keep this pivoting, keep this rotation, and constantly apply pressure to stop Alex's Raging Bolt from doing what it wants to do at the same time. He could go in the same way that Alex did, go for that Wood Hammer and try and get damage on the board.
You have to be so careful because there is the way of getting the damage down on the board, but also you're not going to be dealing enough, and if you get the Calm Mind, you can start falling behind, especially since you do have the extra element of layer added to this. The Rillaboom over on Alex's end, well, it can go for another Wood Hammer as well. It wouldn't be enough for the KO, but it's still going to be a significant amount of damage in a game that you're supposed to be outlasting and outliving.
I think if you're able to deal with the opposing Raging Bolt early, however, it does give your Raging Bolt a little bit more free reign to start commanding this match. If you're not having to worry about your opponent targeting down that partner slot, going for those Dragon Pulses into your Urshifu or your Incineroar, it will give Alex a little bit more breathing room.
The one thing with Tim maybe disrespecting the Rillaboom on the opposing end a little bit is the fact that you will be recovering a lot more health. So still, if you know you're making it through this turn, you can do that survive here. You turn for a good chunk of damage into that Rillaboom, and notably as well, bringing in the Incineroar. So if there is another Wood Hammer coming out from the Rillaboom on Alex's end, well, it's now been intimidated twice and will be doing a lot less damage.
That's the thing, Incineroar isn't just here for the fake outs, it has that ability too to play a role. Rillaboom, I think, maybe seeing the writing on the wall there and going for the U-turn to make sure that those intimidates can be reset. The Wood Hammer could be a critical piece to be able to get the damage on the board, or even just to be able to have that priority Grassy Glide to play around any Thunderclap shenanigans.
I don't think we'll see the Thunderclaps coming quite out yet. They're only at a +1 special attack.
Just the one, okay.
It's not enough for these Raging Bolts. We want to make sure we can go. I will be curious if one breaks a little bit sooner to try and make sure that you can be getting the damage needed. But for now, Alex bringing in his own Incineroar. Another round of Intimidate. Another round of Calm Mind while we're at it too. Keep it coming.
Keep that record and repeat. We're going to be saying it all set long. Fake outs, Calm Minds, a little bit of Intimidate, and oh, look at that Calm Mind on Tim's side as well. But even though it might be that little bit repetitive, the consistency is key to trying to lock up the end game for these trainers. They're both similar teams, they've got similar strategies, so it really will come down to the little intricate ways that they've been trained and who breaks first on the offensive pressure. A critical hit could be devastating in this match.
Yeah, all of the setup, and for what if the critical hit comes on through. Tim, at this point, this Raging Bolt has almost gained back all of its health. It's about 30 HP, 40 HP away from recovering it. So that's been really, really clutch going on for it. And you can go for another Calm Mind here at this point since you're still not being pressured offensively at this point. So I think we're just going to see the same old, same old.
Alex could start switching it up, though. You've got the +2 on there, so you have the potential to be able to just start applying a lot of pressure to the opposing Incineroar. That was one thing that Alex was able to do earlier on in the game 1, was put Tim a Pokemon down before he lost his, and that then did force Tim to have to bring in Pokemon like the Ogerpon from the back and expose them. Alex just wasn't able to get the momentum through to the end, but it was still a good strategy.
Well, right now, neither Raging Bolt going on the offensive as Incineroar is doing all the work. A Fake Out traded a piece. If you can do it, I can do it as well.
We've got to keep an eye on this grassy terrain as well, because both Rillabooms are in the back, and their critical role, as well as all the pivoting, is actually to keep that grassy terrain on the field. Yes, it does also benefit your opponents, but it's critical for your strategy too, as well as enabling the grassy glide. If your Incineroar or your Raging Bolt is able to combine and deal with the opposing Rillaboom, then yours has that advantage and can be the only one to benefit from the priority given by the grassy terrain.
Lou, you know what I think we might see this time around? I think we're just going to see a round of Calm Minds and a parting shot.
Are you sure?
I think we might. I think we might. It's too safe to go for otherwise. But you could go for something like this Will-O-Wisp, considering we talked about how important that grassy terrain is for that recovery. But since there is only that one way of recovery over on Alex's end, this is actually a way that you can start getting a leg up in the battle, because that is going to be negated and the damage is going to be starting to stick. And the Calm Mind from Alex, sure, that special defense, that special attack, it is going up. Those stocks are going up. But if you're going to be burned, that could be so detrimental. It does have to connect, though. That's always the first part with those Will-O-Wisps.
And first of all, we've got to get through these Calm Minds, both of them at 3 apiece on that special attack and special defense here, as the Incineroar goes for the parting shot. So we'll be dropping the Raging Bolt on Tim's side back down to +2 special attack.
And that'll be an Incineroar now swapping out. I could only imagine the Rillaboom coming back in over on Alex's end. So you have the Fake Out yet again going on to the next turret, or to try and even pressure if you think that you might be falling behind in that damage trade. Since Alex is at that +3 special attack, this is where in that first game that Alex started really going and where we started seeing the Dragon Pulses be fired off. So that would be the time, especially if this Will-O-Wisp does connect, because it does put a timer on Alex's field.
That's the thing, you might kind of think, oh, the Will-O-Wisp going down into a special attacker, that's not necessarily the strategic play we've seen previously, but it's all just about those damage counts. You can always go for the parting shot later, try and just, drop the opposing Raging Bolt down to that +2 and make it a little less formidable, but in the end game, all those little bits of damage can count. In game 1, we saw, for example, the Fake Out got a critical hit into that opposing Raging Bolt, and sometimes just those minute little points of HP can be what sways the win in the end, and it's going to be a long one, so you've got to hold on and see how the show's going to close out.
Eyebrow raise coming out from Alex. The burn, of course, that's not going to affect the special attack at all, so the Raging Bolt's still going to be a force to be reckoned with in that case. But now there is that little bit of a timer. You have to have that grassy terrain up so you're not falling behind in the damage, whereas Tim is only going to be healing.
I'm not gonna lie, the anticipation is building for me at the moment because this is what happened in game one. Really, really slow, consistent plays, very similar plays, and then one thing changed and it completely threw me off guard. Now the grassy terrain has left the field. This is where Tim could bring his Rillaboom in, set that terrain back up again, have a little bit of the fake out in play. But we're starting to see a divide in strategies. That Will-O-Wisp has come through. Incineroar could go for a Will-O-Wisp into the opposing Rillaboom, just burn it and stop these Wood Hammers and Grassy Glides from being something that the Raging Bolt doesn't want to take.
They would only then really punish the Rillaboom then, unless there is the swap out. And if there is the swap out, then you would be doing not much into an Incineroar. It will be sticking around this time. Fake out into the Raging Bolt, Dragon Pulse into the Incineroar. Alex said, hey, I might be burned, and Incineroar, you're going down for that.
Here we go again. Dragon Pulse comes out from Alex. He takes the first knockout of the match, and it is Incineroar that has been felled again. Tim gonna be forced to bring in a Pokemon from the back. It's probably gonna be that Rillaboom just to get back into that momentum of switches, but we know that Ogerpon is waiting in the wings.
There is the opportunity to bring in the Rillaboom to make sure that you're not damaged too much by the Dragon Pulse. It could have been a safe swap into that Ogerpon as well if you wanted to be doing the damage and not give that Grassy Terrain over to your opponent as well. At this point, we will see it will be the Rillaboom. Grassy Surge, Grassy Terrain, and you could fire off a powerful Wood Hammer as well. Fake out pressure over onto this next turn.
Yes, Rillaboom most likely going to go for the fake out into that opposing Raging Bolt, just going to stop it from going for a Dragon Pulse. But then again, you have the Assault Vest. This could be an opportunity you could take to just go for the Wood Hammer, knowing that you can take one of these Dragon Pulses. It's an opportunity to get damage on the board, boosted up by that Grassy Terrain. You have to watch out for maybe an Incineroar switching in for the Rillaboom on Alex's side, because that Intimidate will be detrimental to the pressure you can apply.
Thing is that there is two threats, but when you're looking at an end game with these Raging Bolts and you have that recovery, you're gonna be coming out ahead and you want to keep it in check. Fake out, definitely the safer turn in this. You turn a nice chunk of damage into the Rillaboom, and now yet again a pivot. I didn't know if I'd be saying that this many times today. Now the Rillaboom is gone. You can bring something like Incineroar back in. Yet again, here we go. Of course, we still have yet to see an action from this Raging Bolt, so we'll have the opportunity to go on the offensive and start chipping away at the Incineroar.
It's going to start sounding like a made-up word, the word pivot, by the end of this. But Raging Bolt on Tim's side also going to go for that Dragon Pulse, but it is not able to get the KO. It's only at +2 here, so that underwhelming damage means Incineroar is here to stay. The fake-out pressure is still there for Alex.
That is a lot of damage that's been stacking up, though. And when you're looking at it, Tim did, quote-unquote, fall behind in the game one with not getting the same big KOs that Alex was getting, be kicking things off, but still finding ways to be dealing back into that, especially, too, with the Incineroar already being so low. Sure, you can go for the fake out, but there are still two very powerful Pokemon over on this end that can be dealing with. And since there's the Assault Vest for the Rillaboom, a Dragon Pulse shouldn't KO that.
I do believe in that game one that the U-turn and the Dragon Pulse wasn't enough into the Rillaboom. I can't quite remember if Grassy Terrain played a role in it, but the Incineroar's in a prime position where, again, it could go for the fake out, try and maybe give that chip over the edge to guarantee the knockout, and that would force Tim to reveal that final Pokemon in the back.
Fake out, Raging Bolt, little bit of damage, no attack this time around. Wood Hammer coming out from Tim to start doing more and more damage into this Raging Bolt that does not have the capability of healing back up. Dragon Pulse will take care of that KO, thanks to, in part, the recoil as well that it was taking, bringing now Tim to his final 2.
Yeah, Rillaboom on Tim's side needed to get a little bit more gas back in the tank from that Grassy Terrain. Now down 2 Pokemon, whereas Alex still has all 4 ready to rotate through and apply pressure. It really has been where he was able to keep that Raging Bolt with those Carmine boosts up. Less parting shots were going down into it. And although the Will-O-Wisp, as you can see, is chipping away, the fact that it can deal that extra punch behind the Dragon Pulse is meaning that Alex is gaining the momentum in this match.
When we're looking at the final 2 Pokemon for Tim, though, they are at full health, and the Ogerpon, getting in safely this time around, does have speed on its side and still can be dealing a lot of pressure over onto the opposing end. So sure, there is a heavy Pokemon advantage on Alex's end, but there is a significant difference in how these Pokemon are looking. The Incineroar so low, the Raging Bolt so low, you do have the potential of firing off a fast attack into that one slot.
Yes, both these Pokemon have the utility. Raging Bolt can also go for something like the Thunderclap just to get that priority down on the board. But Ogerpon really is going to be the key to victory here for Tim if he wants to be able to not go into a Game 3.
And looking at the fact that the Raging Bolt from Alex could be firing off a Thunderclap onto Tim's end into that Hearthflame Ogerpon, you then have to worry about the potential, well, if it's a Spiky Shield, you fall so far behind on that. It will be there to protect, scout things out a little bit, and try and see where your Incineroar can make up a little bit more of that lack. But Wood Hammer into that slot, already so low, not very effective, it didn't need to be. slowly chipping away at the Pokemon count on Alex.
Yeah, Ogerpon not feeling tempted to go down into that Raging Bolt, going for the target slot, and Raging Bolt here just going for the Dragon Pulse, but to no avail. I do like the play by Alex here, going for the Protect, like you said, kind of just trying to identify how Tim wants to play this out, but Tim identifying the Protect was safe, and he was going to punish Alex for it.
And now, with that Protect, you didn't get to have that big Dragon Pulse onto that Ogerpon, because that could have been a call too, since the Wood Hammer was targeted into the Incineroar, and the Dragon Pulse would have done no damage to you since you are Terra and you are immune. This would have been the opportunity to put Tim down to his final Pokemon. Raging Bolt can clutch out some crazy end games, so I'm not going to discount it, but it definitely would have been a swing to maybe put things way better for Alex here. And when Pokemon are being chipped away, it definitely makes things difficult. We still yet to see the 4th Pokemon on Alex's end, and we will finally get to see it. The Urshifu that didn't get to do much in this first game, hopefully you make a splash in the second.
Yeah, it has an opportunity for redemption here, and I think if you've got Alex, you have to be aware that Tim is really playing the player and not just the game here, calling exactly how Alex wants to play out these turns, and then capitalizing on those reads, as long, of course, as he gets it correctly. This is where things can get a little bit difficult now. The Urshifu's on the field. It is not carrying a focus sash, so this could be a prime opportunity to go for something like the Thunderclap, but you don't want to misplay at this point. Tim cannot afford to do so.
It does have the Protect, unlike the choice item. So if you hit a Thunderclap into that, it could not do much. As well, the Aqua Jet, having that other priority, and the double up into the Ogerpon, it's actually not going to be enough with that. Ogerpon now, the Wood Hammer, it will be the recoil, but it doesn't matter. It will be enough to take care of Alex's Raging Bolt.
Tim punches the air, and you can see why. He needed that survival on the Ogerpon so it could get that retaliation and now leave the Raging Bolt to try and clean up against this opposing Urshifu. Ogerpon will go down to its troubles. It has been valiant in this match, but now Raging Bolt has all of Tim's chances to try and get into these finals. There's one more Pokemon he's got to get through, though. That Rillaboom is still in the back.
You saw the hands come together for Alex, praying that the Urshifu can make it through the turn, but the Raging Bolt, no problem for it. Now just that Rillaboom remaining, does have the Assault Vest, but it's already down quite a bunch of health at this point, and we've gotten to see before that the Wood Hammer is just not enough, and with the recoil, it still wouldn't be enough to be quite getting it there. Raging Bolt, Protect here, make sure that, hey, you can get a little bit more recovery.
Yes, it also burns through this fake out as well, not just taking any unnecessary damage, but Tim knows how to play this. The Rillaboom in a position where, yes, it can go for this Wood Hammer, but we've seen that it is nowhere near enough to be able to get that damage, particularly as the grassy terrain has left the field.
Make sure that the Wood Hammers are not boosted by any additional factors, that these Wood Hammers, the damage is just going to be mitigated going on forward, and the Dragon Pulses you can get the most out of. Going on into this, there is also the potential of something like a critical hit happening. Grassy Glide instead to not take any recoil. You're going to do this a slow and steady way, but when the Dragon Pulse from the other end is doing significant amount of damage, won't be quite it. You have to hope that you can do enough fish for the crit with the Wood Hammer on the next turn. 3 minutes left. We won't need that long. Rillaboom on just a sliver.
Raging Bolt has been front and center in this set for both our trainers, but it is Tim's that is still standing at the end of this set. It's in prime position. Another one of these Dragon Pulses is going to come through. The Wood Hammer, not enough. Raging Bolt is here to clean it through. Tim Edwards is going into the finals.
What a fantastically played set. And Tim Edwards, who is already breaking through the roof of his past VG accomplishments, now in the grand finals here for EUIC.
Huge congratulations, Tim. What a match. What a way to kick off top 4. Oh my goodness, my breath is literally taken away.
My brain needs a rest after that one as well. I cannot imagine how the players feel. What an intense matchup. Everything going into that, and being able to pick off a player like Alex Gómez, NAIC champion, this long list of accomplishments behind him. He had to fight for every moment, and fight he did.
The newer trainer in their first full competitive season, taking down a titan such as Alex Gómez. Huge commiserations to him. He battled strong, he fought valiantly, but was felled at that last hurdle before Championship Sunday. He is still a reigning international champion, but he will not be getting the double here at EUIC.
Still such an impressive run coming out, though. Largest Pokemon competition VGC history. Making it top 4 is fantastic. But for Tim Edwards to make it this far, absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to see how he performs tomorrow.
Yes, and you can just see on his face almost this kind of I've made it. I've done it. That little cheeky smile, like, yeah, I did. I'm in the finals. I mean, it's just amazing for these trainers to be able to have that, and nobody can ever take that away from them. Of course, he's got to be able to be here tomorrow. We don't know who his opponent will be yet, but it's going to be, already just off this match, it's going to be an epic final tomorrow.
100%. What a stressful match coming out here, too. And in both games, I mean, the trainers going for very similar setups. And, I mean, very, very similar.
Yeah.
We saw the same turn play out way too many times. More times than I can realistically count here. And we got to see some really key differences make a big role in there. Both trainers did start putting that momentum forward around the same time as well. And it was always Alex in the beginning that was able to come out ahead. But since it was stuff that Tim could do, that will-o-wisp to make sure the Raging Bolt couldn't get out of control, making sure that his Raging Bolt was always just back at that full health. Things like that really helping him in through the end.
I actually almost feel like both trainers only brought 3 Pokemon to this match because the Ogerpon and the Urshifu, yeah, they were kind of obsolete. The Urshifu in this match in game 2, yeah, was able to get an Aqua Jet off, but other than that, it literally did nothing in the set. I don't think Alex necessarily had another pawn that he could put in to make the board state a little bit different. Ogerpon was able to go for the Wood Hammer and get the KO, but I feel like a lot of other Pokemon on that side, you know, even something like a Fluttermane would have been able to get a KO there, for example. It wasn't about the Ogerpon.
I think when we got about midway, halfway through that second game, there is a couple really key things coming out from Tim here, specifically too when Alex went and protected that Raging Bolt, making sure that it was staying safe, the double target into the other slot. So all of a sudden you're a turn behind, and Pivotal not KOs, trying to say KO. Critical survivals here. We got to see a couple double ups from Alex, just barely missing the mark. And those were KOs that surely would have shifted the tides.
And that's the thing, I know I was just kind of saying that Ogerpon didn't really like do a lot, and it didn't in terms of offensive pressure, but its defensive capabilities, taking that double up and enabling the retaliation did just completely swing that into Tim's favor. I mean, should we go hear from our finalist?
I think we should. So let's head over to the main stage to hear what he has to say about his grand finals appearance.
It's the biggest Pokemon VG event we've ever seen, and your first finalist is Tim Edwards! Tim! You must need to catch your breath after that.
I'm exhausted, but I couldn't be any happier.
No, I'm absolutely sure. It was a 2-0 victory. It felt like maybe it went to 3 games, but no, that was just the 2. And as you were saying before we chatted, it was the small differences between your otherwise very similar teams that mattered.
Yeah, the leftovers on my Raging Bolt compared to the booster energy on his in the end game definitely mattered a lot with the health recovery, I would say was the biggest detail that stood out to me.
Right, and then that stacks up with the grassy terrain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, expand on what you were saying there.
Yeah, I was a little worried about the Goldingo, which is why I had the Ogerpon Hearthflame in the back, where I was considering the Fluttermane just to have another check to Raging Bolt in the back. But the Ogerpon Hearthflame living the Aqua Jet Thunderclap combination was as clutch as it gets.
Yeah, absolutely. That was such an incredible moment. You were setting up calm minds aplenty, both of you, in that game. How aware were you of the calculations needed? Were you aware, okay, I need to set up 2 in order to get this knockout, 3 to get this one? Talk us through that.
Yeah, a lot of Incineroars that I played this weekend did drop to 2 calm minds, but Alex's did barely live, so I knew in game 2 I had to get to +3. He played an incredible set too, and a great run by him.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal set. It really doesn't get more complex than this. This is the beauty of the game and everything it has to offer here. So, Alex, you've made it through to Championship Sunday tomorrow. What's on the agenda next? To sleep, perhaps?
Definitely prepping for tomorrow. I think I need to switch my flight, which was originally tomorrow morning. Phenomenal problem to have. One step away from making the dream come true.
A dream it absolutely is. Well, trainers, we have one of our finalists here. Are there any shout-outs you want to give?
Yeah, I said it this morning when the venue was a little bit more quiet.
Yeah,
but,
do it again. Let's get that reaction.
All of my friends from New York, New Jersey. Everyone back home who's been messaging me. Fede Campo, my coach. Couldn't do it without them.
Absolutely, and this is by far, you were saying, your biggest achievement yet. This is your first full season, you were saying.
Yeah, I started very late last year. I made day 2 of Toronto, but nothing matches up to this. I'm surprising myself, to say the least.
Reaching the EUIC finals, absolutely incredible. It could be you trainers at home. You could be playing your first ever season and get an event like this, a result that is so coveted by so many around the globe. Don't you dare go anywhere, because we're going to be seeing who's joining Tim in tomorrow's Championship Sunday.